Good afternoon, 6-4 parents. Mr. Hagedorn here with our weekly update. First of all, thank you very much. Those of you that sent in some tissues, we are pretty well stocked right now. We will probably be asking for them again next quarter, but right now we're pretty good to go into next quarter. So thank you very much, those of you that sent those in. In math next week, Math 6 and 6 Plus are actually at the same spot right now just because we moved some things around in Math 6. So all my classes next week will be looking at multiplying and dividing decimals. So that'll be all next week. We'll be practicing multiplying, dividing decimals. And then the following week, we'll be doing our study guide and our quiz on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing decimals. All right. Have a great weekend. Looks like tomorrow's supposed to be beautiful. And we will see you guys on Monday. Decimals. Oh, yeah. Scary stuff.
All right, 6-4 families. This is my last video. I'm not sure if the fellows are making one next week, but I will not be here for that. Remember, my last day is Wednesday. That's why on the board it said any missing work is due today. So if you got the work in, great. I'll have it graded by the time I get out on Wednesday. If I did not get the assignments by the end of the day today, unfortunately, I have to move on. So I will be out starting next Thursday. I'll be out Thursday, Friday, and all of the last week we're tracked in. I apologize in advance, but I am not going to be answering emails that first week I have after surgery. So I apologize. I'll get back to emails on January 2nd. I'm working that work day, and then when we track back in. So if you email me, I'll catch up with you either one of those two times. But these last 2 weeks for science, we will be focusing on light. We started that already this week. We looked at parts of the eye today. We're going to compare light and sound because they are definitely opposites, and there are two things that we've been doing. We're going to compare the eye and the ear. And then we will be focusing on the EM spectrum until we track out, talking about the applications of it, how it's used in our daily lives, why our lives are better or worse because of it. And we'll be looking at, is all EM radiation good? Is all EM radiation bad? Make a claim and prove it true. And making a claim is something that was tied into ELA this week. All right. I will see you all after I return back from tracking. Track out.
Track out.
Track out.
Track in. Track out.
Something track.
Something track. All right, let's talk social studies. But before we do social studies, let's talk language arts for just a quick hot minute. So today was the day that we kind of had marked to be the last day of working on the essay that goes with Good Masters, Sweet Ladies. So students have had 3 days basically to come up with finishing their graphic organizer, come up with a claim of yes, kids struggle the same way as they did in the Middle Ages, or no, they don't, and then kind of figuring out from the book where there are proofs of those claims. They were worked through a graphic organizer. They kind of started drafting and revised and edited and used the checklists today and should be done or very nearly done with that essay. So if they're not done with it, you might want to check in with them when they get home and see it. And if they're not finished with it, get them finished with it this weekend so that they can turn that thing in. And then starting next week, we're going to be starting to look at what are called concrete poems. And you probably recognize a concrete poem, these poems that kind of take some kind of artistic shape about them. So we'll be talking about concrete poems. We'll be analyzing some concrete poems in the next week. And then as we get into our final week of school, students are going to create their own concrete poems. So that's kind of where language arts is going in the next little while. In social studies, we are still talking about achievements, and we've been talking about different achievements from Mesopotamia. We've been talking about Egyptian achievements. We've been starting to talk about Chinese achievements. Today was kind of a special day because, speaking of one of those achievements, which went back to our unit on religion, we had a mummy, and that mummy was released today or revealed today. And so we went through the process of taking out of the bag our mummy. We oiled the mummy because that's what they would do in the ancient day. They kind of oil it so it wasn't brittle. We perfumed the mummy because it wasn't terribly stinky, but it also didn't smell great. And then we wrapped in fine linen, or a raggy t-shirt that I brought, our mummy. And now some students are going to actually create for us a sarcophagus for our mummy to go into. We have 3 of these. We just dropped it. 3 of these mummies that we are going to put into sarcophaguses. Now, we are continuing next week with our unit on achievements, where we talk about the achievements of architecture and infrastructure. So we'll be talking about different buildings, mostly around Rome, and infrastructure, how those buildings and the systems kind of work together to make an easy and flowing city, or at least that's the idea. And so we'll be working on that throughout the end of this unit. And then when we come back in January, we're going to start our unit on politics. All right, friends. We'll talk to you later. Have a good break.